What's your take on full electric turbos that run off of 48 volts like that of a torque amp?
to break.
Oh, torque amp is a brand?
Have not had any experience with them to date. I think they were, outside of the OEM world that's been using them. I think it's a little premature on the aftermarket stuff to have something that's worth, the
Yeah.
effort of installing. And then you've got to work on some sort of system to properly, provide that air to the motor without it being a restriction then. So, the OEMs that I've seen do it have an actual control flap.
Mhm.
So you're changing your intake path from your pre-charger, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to your
Just like
primary boost.
a drive-by-wire throttle bar.
Yeah. So there's a lot that would have to go into that to make it better than not having it to start with. And doing it in a way that's seamless is going to be pretty tricky on cars these days. So yeah.
Yeah. We've never used one. I've been reading about them for 20 years. Potentially a game-changing
Yeah.
technology.
Yep. And I'm happy to hear 48 volts and up is being talked about now
Yeah.
because you do need a lot of
You
power
need a
to
massive
drive
voltage
these things, and to
right.
do it without running like zero gauge wire is going to be
Yeah.
higher voltages.
But you're still probably going to have to add at least some kind of battery.
But then you've got to have that 48 volts right at
Yeah,
hand,
to-
which
to
is
stiffen
not,
the power supply.
not something cars currently have.
Yeah. But I think if it was a panacea, all the OEMs would be using it. The fact of the matter is that turbocharging is incredibly attractive still.
Yeah.
It's just a packaging issue, and you can very nicely package a turbocharger in any motor. And now you have a fully integrated system that's just using the energy that's already there. So you don't have to add really much of anything other than incorporating the turbo into the exhaust manifold, adding an intercooler. It's actually really cheap and simple to do. The electric turbocharging that I think is interesting is, in the aftermarket application, you put a big, so you say you put like a 800 horsepower turbo, and then you use the electric turbo to spool that up and to broaden, the power band. Now you have like an engine compartment filled with power adder devices. It gets really complicated, and it's not very attractive from that point.
Yeah, and the motors these days are so flexible too, more so than they used to be in the past with either, the valve timing, valve lift adjustments. There's a lot more tricks that
Oh yeah,
that engines have these days to really broaden that,
Look at the
that
Dazzle.
VE curve.
it's a 600 horsepower, 550 horsepower turbo that spools up at 3,000 RPM.
Audi and Porsche are using electric turbos.
Yeah.
6.5.
Yes, there are OEM
Right.
there are OEM
Under
integrations.
Is bringing a compound, like a dual electric and
Yep, there's plenty of OEM integrations now.
They're starting
Yeah.
to more, but
But they've got the-
turbocharging is by far.
Yes, they've got the entire system around us. They've got the charge path switcher. They've got the voltage supply at hand. So just sticking one onto an existing motor is where it gets
Yeah. I haven't seen these OEM implementations, but knowing how the OEMs do it, it's probably just this massive assembly of like turbos and all built into this one thing. Have you ever seen if you've ever seen like the sequential turbo setups off of Supra? It's like a shit show, And that was kind of like the big technology in the 80s is like you run two turbos, one's smaller, one's bigger, and they spool each other up. And, everyone moved away from it because, like Nate said, they were able to do all that inside the motor with advanced, camshaft and timing controls. So it's cool. I've seen a few people use it. I personally am not interested in having like a crap ton of stuff in my engine compartments, especially like a race car or something like that. But it's more stuff to break. But it's definitely an interesting technology for sure.